The Department of War, what used to be the Department of Defense, President Trump says, yeah, I'm not about defending. I want to go on the offense. And so the name was changed. Secretary of what was Department of Defense, Hegseth, is now the Secretary of War. It seems to be relishing that role and seems to be enthusiastic about it and what it portends. Yesterday, he put forth an X post where he said that President Trump has ordered action and the Department of War is delivering. Today, I am announcing Operation Southern Spear, led by Joint Task Force Southern Spear and Southcom. This mission defends our homeland, removes narco-terrorists from our hemisphere, and secures our homeland from the drugs that are killing our people. The Western Hemisphere is America's neighborhoods, and we will protect it. Now, as you can see, that was 7.4 million people just since yesterday have seen that. And it's important to understand the context with which this is made here, this statement here. But even before I get into the context or tell you what the ramifications of this are or what we are apparently doing, I'll just tell you that this is a big fraud being perpetrated on the American people. There's no truth to this. It is self-evidently and barely even threadbare thin fig leaf to pretend it's something that it's not. This claim that this is about drugs is just grotesquely untrue. The USS Gerald R. the world's biggest and our most advanced aircraft carrier with profound amount of striking power on its decks, is not something you would send to get after speedboats in the Caribbean Sea, thousands of miles away from the American coast, or hundreds of miles in many cases. It's a long, long way from any threat to the United States. And this is not even, it doesn't take much research at all. I mean, just a handful of Google searches to see that the drugs coming into the United States are not on speedboats. And in fact, virtually every one of them, and I think there's actually no exceptions to this, all the speedboats that we have seen, that the videos have shown that they were destroyed in that map that Gary sometimes shows about where they are, they could not reach the American coastline. They could not get there to be able to unload their cargoes. So they weren't coming to the United States. And when you take a look at where the drugs are coming from and how they're entering the United States, you realize that even killing all these people in these boats has virtually no impact at all on it. So at face value, what you're being told is a lie. Let's just start there. This is something about, almost certainly, the much more likelihood is that this is about regime change operation in Venezuela. Yeah, that's the one right there. Trump, Gary has shown that many times. You see how far away these are. These are speedboats. These are not ocean-going vessels that can actually, go a long, long way and thousands of miles, et cetera. These are things that have, I think, 100, 200 mile range on them before they have to be refueled. And the amount of cargo you can put on them is pretty small. I've only seen literally one boat that looked like it was really just stuffed to the stern with sacks of things that could well have been drugs. Some of them looked like they were completely empty. So even the threadbare fig leaf doesn't even work because it doesn't look like there was anything on it. These boats would be maximized with cargo and minimized with personnel. And yet with the majority of these boats that were shown, there is hardly anything on the boat. In a couple of cases, there's nothing at all. So that by itself is enough to say, okay, something is desperately wrong here. You're not being told the truth. But what is happening here, and as the Gerald R. Ford and all of its escort vehicles, it's the destroyers, the missile boats, all the things that are with it, the amphibious assault groups of Marines that are going along with it, all of those things have nothing to do with interdicting drugs. Nothing whatsoever to do. What they do have the potential to do is to operate and conduct strikes on Venezuela. And of course, you know that there's a lot of forces in the Caribbean. There has been specific rehearsals done on Puerto Rico. There have been expansion of airfields, et cetera, on bases that hadn't been used in decades by the United States on Puerto Rico, all within striking range of Venezuela. And all this comes as recently as this past Wednesday, just a couple of days ago. There was reported by CBS a meeting in the White House of senior military officials with the president to explain options on what kind of kinetic action can be done on Venezuela, not on drug runners, not on the cartels, on Venezuela. And of course, you may recall that in the first Trump administration, he did everything he could to, in a really ham-fisted way, in just a rookie kind of mistake way, trying to get a regime change operation against Maduro the first time. It spectacularly failed. We ended up looking really bad at it, and Maduro continued and actually increased and solidified his hold. Now it looks like the president says, all right, well, we didn't use any military force last time. We relied on people on the ground. That didn't work. So let's try something different. Now, as of right now, as of the time I'm making this video, there's not anything, nothing has been done. We just have this declaration made by the Secretary of War last night that this is to protect our American people. It wasn't explained, though. He didn't say, here's this operation and here's what that's going to mean. And Gary, put that back up there if you still have it handy. I want, because there's something I want to point out from this, one of the first one. President Trump ordered action. That's important here. He ordered action, and the Department of War is delivering. So far, other than these speedboats that have been knocked out by Predator drones, so they've been taken out by drones from the Predators and the missiles that have been fired there. You don't need an aircraft carrier for that. So all of this power must be for something else. So this can't refer just to taking out speedboats, because you already had the assets down there, and none of them were what's being on display right now that I just mentioned about the aircraft carriers, the Marines, and the other naval support vessels. So then what is? Well, let's take a look at something the Secretary of War had said about a week earlier when he was talking about where the United States should go and what it should do in terms of its overall view of the world and what may be coming next. He said this first one here about the, well, I'll let him speak for himself.
We're not just buying something. We're solving life and death problems for our warfighters. We're not building for peacetime. We are pivoting the Pentagon and our industrial base to a wartime footing. Building for victory, should our adversaries FAFO.
Okay, so now aside from just the arrogance of that FAFO, okay, you're talking about putting us on a wartime footing. There is no war. And I pray to God you don't go down the path of the war on drugs. We've done that before, been there, done that, failed. There's a reason why it failed. This isn't even as well thought out, isn't even as rehearsed, and doesn't even have a plan, a strategy like that one did. It wasn't a good one, but they had one. There's none of that here. But you're telling American people you're putting us on a wartime footing. And now then here we see this meeting in the White House after the Ford gets on location, after all these other ships are in the area, after you've been rehearsing things on Puerto Rico for amphibious assaults, after we're in some of the other islands that are just barely off the coast of Venezuela. Now then you have this declaration. And he went a little bit further in that November 7th issue, saying it's a 1939 moment.
This is a 1939 moment, or hopefully a 1981 moment, a moment of mounting urgency. Enemies gather, threats grow, you feel it, I feel it. If we are going to prevent and avoid war, which is what we all want, we must prepare now. Our adversaries are not sitting idly by, they're moving fast. They're developing and delivering new capabilities at a rate that should be sobering to every American, especially those who work in the Pentagon and in the defense industrial base. Their ambitions and intentions are bold. Their actions speak volumes, and frankly, at times we've been too damn slow to respond.
So listen to, let me just cut to the chase here. What they're saying is they're not, and forget that what he said there, that's also a lie. We don't want to fight. We're trying to prevent it. You're doing everything to facilitate it. Nobody from Venezuela is coming after us. And this issue of the drugs, let's just shred that away too. That is what he's doing now. Let me just show you. In fact, let me not even talk about it. Let me show you what actually does bring drugs in, where all that comes from. This issue here, this study was done earlier this year on July 14th, 2025. Facts about fentanyl smuggling. one of the key things is that they can confirm roughly 4 and 5 people apprehended for smuggling fentanyl, and that's the big bugaboo, into the United States at the southern border between October 2018 and June 2024 were U.S. citizens. U.S. citizens. The rest were largely individuals with visas, border crossing cards, or other permission to enter the United States lawfully at a point of entry. Then you get down here and it has just a little bit more detail of where is the fentanyl smuggled into the United States. And you find out it's actually in primarily in the ports of entry, which means in port cities and places where traffic is normally brought in, where other goods come in from all around the world. Some checkpoints, vehicle stopping, and then ports between operators. See this one right here, this tiny little black line that you can see here. If there was a drug boat, a speedboat that had the range to get to the United States, then it would come in. It would be one of these between ports of entry. It would just kind of go on the shore somewhere. You see that? It's barely a rounding error. The vast majority comes in the points of entry. The vast majority of that comes in from American citizens. So what the bottom line is, what that's telling you is that all of these claims that this is coming in, that these blowing up these boats down here is actually where this is keeping us safe. No, it's not doing anything of the kind. That's not even where it comes in. So you're putting all this combat power in the little black line, the rounding error here. And even that, those boats that you have blown up can't even reach the United States. So if anything else, you would be wanting to do the ones that are close to the shorelines. And of course, then that would be with the national or the Coast Guard, not the U.S. Navy. So far, everything he said is an absolute lie. There's no truth to it at all. And yet they don't seem to be concerned about that. They either think you're not going to watch a show like this, you're not going to do some really simple Googling like I did, even to show you that one subject there, or that people just won't care. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people that don't care because of what they're doing is saying is lying. Then that means that it is violating of the law because there is no law. There is no law in international law or in American law that says that running drugs is a capital offense that requires, without any kind of due process, assassination or execution, summary execution. Don't call it something nicer. That's what it is. It is summary execution because we have what we claim is intelligence that confirms it, though that is highly questioned and very much in doubt because evidence suggests that some of these boats that have been attacked, in fact, weren't drug boats at all, but were either something else, weren't carrying any drugs, or were fishing vessels in some cases. As one case was from Colombia, which has them infuriated down there. So in any case, it definitely is not something that is actually getting into the United States. But a lot of people aren't concerned about that. They're not concerned about the legality of it or anything else. This video here from Dave Rubin from a couple of days ago is just one, but it's symbolic or symptomatic of a lot of people. And I've heard them here recently that are fine with this killing and they aren't even concerned about the legality.
I would say that the United States and this president has made very clear his job is to protect the United States from threats against the United States, and that is what he's doing in this operation.
When bad guys are in boats and they are coming here with drugs, we are blowing up their boats. We don't sit around in a committee meeting going, oh my God, but do we have enough paperwork to make sure that the guys with the fentanyl who are coming over? No, we're just blowing up the boats. It's good. It's an obvious win. But of course, not everybody's for it. And now listen to this from The Guardian. Britain has suspended the sharing of intelligence with the U.S. on suspected drug trafficking vessels in the Caribbean amid concerns information supplied may be used to engage in lethal military strikes by American forces. Do you realize how profoundly insane that is?
Yeah, do you realize how insane it is to follow the rule of law? To not just kill people because they're in the water. Even if they're running drugs, maybe they're running drugs somewhere besides the United States. A lot of the stuff in the Caribbean, as you may know, it ends up in Europe. So that's one of the reasons why the British are there and they actually have intelligence operations, etc. But why worry about any of that? Why worry about the legality? The paperwork in committee, he mocks. That's called a rule of law. It's following the rule of law. He doesn't want to do that because in his mind, hey, if they're drug running, just kill them. Just kill them all. Don't worry about rule of law. Don't worry about following any kind of procedure and due process and all that stuff that used to be a hallmark of American justice system that separated us from those in other parts of even these parts of this world. In Venezuela, even in Maduro and his predecessor, Chavez, a lot of them were oftentimes accused of having no due process and just killing people. That's what happened to Duterte in the Philippines. No rule of law, just summarily executing people who were accused of doing drug issues. And that looked like it was working really well for a while. And then how did that work out? Didn't work out very well. As I understand, Duterte is in prison right now, awaiting trial because of these summary executions he did. One wonders if that's going to be the case for some of the people ordering them now or encouraging it, as Brother Dave Rubin is there. I guess that's not actually a crime, but it certainly won't play well in the public medium and the public view when they see that someone is so enthusiastic about not following the rule of law. And I'm telling you, that kind of thing plays well when it's popular, but when all of a sudden the rule of law doesn't apply there or anywhere else, or maybe even someplace that affects you, people are a lot less enthusiastic about it. And then they want to scream about due process and don't accuse me of something, because I'm promising you, when you allow people to get away with breaking the rule of law, it doesn't just stay where it's at. It doesn't just stay limited to the thing you like and the thing you applaud. It just has this really unpleasant way of manifesting and metastasizing in other ways and eventually rolling back around until you or somebody you love or some issue you care about is now the victim of the lawless act. Because when people get away and there's no constraints of law, and the very government that's supposed to impose the law and enforce it is the very one who's breaking it, folks, they don't just stop right there. They just keep going. That's just human nature. We've seen it throughout thousands of centuries of human nature. We're no different than any of those folks are. So as we sit here right now on Friday, the 14th of November, so far that aircraft carrier is sitting in the water. So far, all those support vessels, they haven't done anything. We haven't launched any attacks. And I pray that enough people may point out these things, point out that this isn't even doing a counter drug issues. This is not what the problem is or how to solve it. And that there is no justification for us to go into another country and literally either kill, capture, or facilitate the overthrow of another government just because we don't like them. That violates every law that there is, even American law. And it's just unethical and immoral. And it sends our country deeper into a dark territory. When you don't even care about the rule of law and whatever's popular can go, anyone can be killed. You don't have to look very far in human history to realize this almost never ends good. And then very often it engenders fear among a lot of the people who are the victims of some of this lawless activity. And fearful, desperate people can sometimes take actions which then can cause more violence. And this thing could go all kinds of sideways. I wasn't even going to get into it today. We'll do that in a subsequent episode. But even if we did this, aside from all the legal and lawfare and moral issues, you also have the very practical aspect that this could just blow up in our face. And if this government is any indication of what they have done up to this point in the 10 or so months since they've been inaugurated, there's ever expectation that this will blow up in our face, and it won't work well at all. Virtually nothing else we've done has actually succeeded. We'll go through that another time as well. But the bottom line is here, this is a bad situation, and we need to expand this, and you need to share this with a lot of people. Make sure people are aware of all the bad things that could happen here. Don't go down this path. It's bad for every reason, and there is nothing. Let me underscore this. There is no upside for us. Not in halting the traffic of illegal drugs, not in making the hemisphere any safer for us. Nothing. It's all potentially bad. That's just what we have here. And then there's all the emotional, psychological, and moral issues on top of that, which could also make it bad. That's the bottom line you need to understand, folks. And I just really want to drive this home today. Don't go down this path. It's bad for America. Thank you very much. Appreciate you listening. We'll see you on the next episode of the Daniel Davis Deep Dive.